Hello, Exiles. I wanted to make this video because I'm really passionate about playing the least played skills, builds, or characters in any game, and Path of Exile 2 is no exception. This is the first video in 3 years I've made, and my first PoE video was just a simple meme, so forgive me if the video and sound quality is not up to par with other Path of Exile videos on YouTube right now. The data this video uses is based on the skills that have the least amount of builds. On the Path of Exile 2 app website, I'll also include gameplay footage when possible, but there won't be too much gameplay footage, as I just wanted to get this information out as quickly as possible. Lastly, I'd like to preface that if anyone out there has made an actual good build that encompasses any of the skills I discuss, I'd like to know your opinions. I definitely don't consider myself a top tier pro PoE player by any means, so my knowledge is definitely not the best. So let's get started. There's the first skill I'd like to talk about is a Spirit Gem Reaper's Invocation. For anyone who's played Path of Exile 1, I'm sure you remember the cast on melee kill support gem. I think arguably it was the least used trigger gem in that game. For a couple of leagues, I tried to make that gem work, but unfortunately, the mechanics of the gem just don't lend well to the optimal way players play in these two games. Furthermore, there are already other gems out there in Path of Exile 2 that could fulfill this gem's niche, namely the Herald skills, especially Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. I also want to add that the 60 spirit cost is likely to make players shy away from this gem. For what it's worth, I've seen builds that slot Profane Ritual in order to create a way to generate power charges across monster packs, but again, the 60 Spirit is a huge opportunity cost that could be better filled by defensive buffs like Wind Dancer or Blasphemy Curses. There's also the fact that this is kind of a dead gem during Pinnacle boss fights, but I'm assuming that if you are going to use this gem intelligently, that you would be using it in a weapon swap where you'd use one weapon set for clearing packs and one for single target damage. Overall, I'd rate the gem very poorly simply because 1, there are other things that can fill its niche better, and 2, it has a huge opportunity cost at 60 spirit. The second skill is actually a set of skills, essentially all the concoction skills that are not poisonous concoction, granted by the Brew Concoction node on Pathfinder. Out of these, only Poisonous Concoction seems to be a strong and popular skill, especially due to the other ascendancy points in Pathfinder that synergize with Poisonous Concoction. Namely, these are Bleeding Concoction, Explosive Concoction, Shattering Concoction, and Fulminating Concoction. I don't want to discuss these skills too much as they will make the video longer than it needs to be. So to shorten my critique of these skills, I think, like I said earlier with the weapon set thing, that the player base has not graduated from Path of Exile 1 paradigm, where usually a single skill can sufficiently clear all content, to Path of Exile 2 paradigm, where you may often need 2 skills, one for single target and one for clear, unless it's a very powerful build like attribute stacking Legionnaire or whatnot. Now, the reason why I think Poisonous Concoction stands above the other concoction skills so much is because it succeeds in both single target and clear. And that is due to both the Contagious Contamination node and Herald of Plague. As far as I'm aware, you can run this node and the Herald of Plague together, almost doubling the range at which you proliferate poison. As for the other 4 concoction skills, I believe Fulminating Concoction and Shattering Concoction for sure succeed with single target damage, mainly due to shotgunning with Scattershot. I've seen build videos where Pinnacle bosses are killed in seconds, so I'm pretty sure these 2, and maybe even the other 2 non-poisonous concoctions can do very good single target damage if you build for it. However, I'd like to add that if you're going specifically for ailment damage, that is Bleed for Bleeding Concoction, and Ignite for Explosive Concoction, that you're probably going to have a really bad time in T15 maps, since those 2 ailments, at least Ignite, in my opinion, have numbers that are not really competitive with other methods of damage in this game. Third is Hailstorm rounds, and by extension, freezing Salvo, because I believe they are pretty similar in terms of mechanics. Basically, these two skills gain charges every moment or so. With Hailstorm rounds, you can quicken the charge gain time by increasing reload speed. With Freezing Salvo, you can quicken it with gem quality. The thing with both skills is that if you have more than one Hailstorm or Salvo gem, then they tick separately, so you could ideally have a build that uses 5 to 6. Could there be a build to be made with that in mind? I'm not sure, but for both skills, I think if you want to make either skill a main skill, you're going to want to play the Legionnaire Ascendancy, as it has access to gem quality and the ability to socket 2 support gems of the same type in different skills. Either way, if you do, you're going to have to play piano, especially with Hailstorm rounds. I don't know if this is really feasible for most players, and I'm not sure if this could be feasible with pinnacle tier content. Anyway, I would like to see someone make a build with these things in mind. Fourth is Incendiary Shot, which loses out to 2 other crossbow skills numerically. If you want to make a hit build, then Fragmentation Rounds wins, since as both skills combine 10 shots into 1 hit, and Fragmentation Rounds has the higher attack damage effectiveness. I'm not sure if there are armor and elemental resistance calculations to account for. I think the latter skill is going to win out. And if you were to play this skill as an Ignite skill, which Ignite generally is not really strong in this game yet, then Explosive Shot should win out purely because it just feels smoother even with a lower attack speed, and has a more multiplier in its gem quality, which is pretty valuable compared to the increased multiplier on Incendiary Shot. Last and least I'd like to talk about is likely the worst skill in the game. I don't know what niche it's trying to fill, but it's definitely not filling any sort of niche that I'm trying to find. Simply put, the numbers just aren't there for this skill. I just don't quite understand how Snipe can just win in terms of numbers while playing almost mechanically the same way. There's also the question of why it would have AoE if it wasn't intended to be played as a clear skill. But if it was intended to be played as a clear skill, then why is it a channeling skill where you can't move? Clearly, the numbers just aren't there to support this skill being playable by any means, and I think it needs a rework. And by the way, does this gem even have a quality mod? I'm not sure. So there you have it, about 5 skills that I believe are the least played in Path of Exile 2. I actually made this video because I wanted to bring more attention to these skills, particularly Incendiary Shot and Detonating Arrow, as I believe these two need buffs really badly. I'm sorry for not including more game footage, but I hope with watching this video you might leave a comment about which skills you think need buffs or rework in this game. Thanks for watching.